The night was supposed to be a celebration. My wife, Emily, had been giddy for weeks about her younger sister's wedding. The whole family was buzzing with excitement, and I wanted to support her despite the growing tension between us. I had recently lost my job, downsizing, corporate excuses, the usual. And while I'd been looking for opportunities, it wasn't exactly easy. Emily, however, had taken my setback as a personal stain on her image. She worked in corporate finance, always dressed sharp, always looking for ways to climb higher. And me? I was the man who no longer fit the picture-perfect image she wanted to project. We arrived at the wedding in our finest clothes. I wore the only tailored suit I owned, the one I had saved for interviews and big occasions. As we mingled, Emily seemed to ignore me most of the night, clinging instead to her colleagues who had been invited. I noticed the way she stiffened when people asked me what I was doing these days. I usually gave a polite, "I'm between jobs right now," but I could feel her cringe every time I said it. Then it happened, the moment that shattered everything. We were standing near the dance floor when Emily's boss, a tall, smug man named Greg, walked over with a glass of champagne in hand. He had the kind of confidence only money could buy, his expensive suit and slicked-back hair practically screaming arrogance. Emily's eyes lit up as if she'd been waiting for him. She pulled me closer with one hand, her nails digging into my arm, and with a voice just loud enough for the surrounding guests to hear, she said, "Greg, this is my husband, Daniel. He's kind of my unemployed loser right now." She laughed. Loud. Exaggerated. A few others chuckled politely, clearly unsure if it was a joke or not. My heart dropped into my stomach. The words hung in the air, sharp and humiliating. I froze, forcing a weak smile as Greg smirked and shook my hand. "Unemployed, huh? Must be nice having all that free time," he said, his tone dripping with condescension. Emily squeezed his arm and said, "Oh, trust me, he's enjoying it a little too much." The group laughed. At me. My wife's words, my wife's mockery, became the punchline of the night. I excused myself and walked away before I said something I'd regret. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection. My fists clenched, my jaw tight. I wasn't just humiliated, I was betrayed. The woman who had promised to love and support me through sickness and health, through rich and poor, had just reduced me to a cruel joke in front of her boss and half the wedding guests. When I returned, I decided to keep silent. I watched her laugh, dance, and drink as though nothing had happened. But my silence wasn't weakness. It was planning. The truth was, I wasn't completely unemployed. I had been freelancing quietly for months, building connections with a startup that had just closed a massive funding round. In fact, I had accepted an offer the very morning of the wedding. A senior role that paid more than Emily's current salary. I hadn't told her yet, because I wanted to surprise her. Ironically, the surprise came in a much different way. Later that evening, while the bride and groom were giving speeches, Emily's boss wandered over to the bar. I followed, calm and collected. "You know," I said, "your company is about to have an interesting time." He raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I just signed with Redline Tech," I told him, letting the name sink in. His face faltered for a split second. Redline was the competitor his firm had been trying to outpace for years. "You," he scoffed. "Yes, me," I said firmly. "Senior operations. I'll be in the office Monday. Maybe I'll see you at the next board meeting." I left him standing there, speechless. But the real confrontation came at the end of the night. Emily stumbled into the car, tipsy and proud of herself. "Did you see how impressed Greg was?" she slurred. "That's how you build connections." I didn't start the engine. I just looked at her. "Connections? You humiliated me, Emily. In front of everyone. Your husband. The man who's been standing by you for years." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, Daniel, don't be so sensitive. It was a joke." "A joke?" I said, my voice rising. "You called me an unemployed loser. That's not a joke, that's disrespect. That's betrayal." Her smirk faltered. "You're overreacting." "No," I said, finally letting the truth spill. "I got a job offer this morning. A damn good one. Senior role at Redline Tech. But after tonight? After the way you treated me? I don't think you'll be celebrating with me." Her face went pale. She sat up straight, suddenly sober. "Wait, you're serious?" I started the car and pulled onto the road, my voice cold, dead serious. And I'm done being the punchline in your life. The silence between us was heavier than the music still echoing from the reception hall. I didn't know if our marriage could survive the night. All I knew was that I deserved better than a wife who would throw me under the bus to impress her boss. By the time we got home, I had already made my decision. I grabbed a bag, filled it with essentials, and headed for the door. Daniel, wait, she pleaded, tears forming in her eyes. I didn't mean it like that. I was nervous. I just wanted to look good in front of Greg. I stopped her with one final glance. You wanted to look good by making me look worthless. That's not love, Emily. That's cruelty. And I won't live like that. With that, I walked out. The next morning, I stepped into my new role with confidence. The humiliation from the wedding still stung, but it also fueled me. I wasn't just an unemployed loser. I was a man who had rebuilt himself, who had found strength in silence and dignity in walking away. And Emily? She was left with the memory of her joke, the one that cost her everything.